Today was supposed to be special. It was our anniversary, and I wanted to make it unforgettable for Jessica. I'd spent weeks planning a surprise party, orchestrating every detail to ensure it was perfect. The house was adorned with candles and flowers, casting a warm and inviting glow. Soft music played in the background, setting the mood for a romantic evening. As the guests began to arrive, I watched Jessica's face light up with joy. She looked stunning in her favorite blue dress, the one I had bought her for our first anniversary. Her smile was radiant, and for a moment all the stress and worry melted away. This was what love was supposed to feel like, pure and untainted. The evening unfolded beautifully. Friends and family mingled, laughter filled the air, and everyone seemed genuinely happy. I couldn't take my eyes off Jessica. She was the center of attention, graciously accepting compliments and sharing memories of our years. It felt like a dream, and I was glad to have created this moment for her. As the night wore on, I decided to give a little speech. I clinked my glass to get everyone's attention and took Jessica's hand. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate our anniversary," I began, looking into her eyes. "Jessica, you are my world. These years with you have been the best of my life. I love you more than words can express." The crowd erupted in applause, and Jessica hugged me tightly. She whispered in my ear, "I love you too," and I felt a surge of happiness. This was the woman I had vowed to spend my life with, the one who made every day worth living. Later, after most of the guests had left, we sat together on the couch, reminiscing about the night. Jessica leaned her head on my shoulder, and I felt content. I got up to get us some more wine, leaving her alone for a moment. As I walked into the kitchen, I noticed Jessica's phone on the counter. The screen lit up with a message notification. Out of habit, I glanced at it, and my heart stopped. The message was from Mike, her colleague. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing." I stood there frozen, as the world around me began to crumble. The party, the smiles, the laughter, all of it felt like a cruel joke. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. This was not the night I had planned, but it was the beginning of a revelation I could never have imagined. I returned to the living room, my mind racing. Jessica looked up at me with a smile, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I handed her the wine, and as she took a sip, I knew our lives were about to change forever. As I stood in the kitchen, staring at Jessica's phone, a whirlwind of emotions engulfed me. The words on the screen blurred as my vision clouded with tears. "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing." It was undeniable proof of her betrayal. The happiness I felt just moments ago turned to ashes in my mouth. I felt a searing pain in my chest as if someone had driven a dagger through my heart. Anger, confusion, and an overwhelming sense of loss flooded my mind. How could she do this to me? How could she stand there smiling and laughing with me while carrying on with someone else behind my back? I sank into a chair, my legs no longer able to support me. The weight of the discovery was too much to bear. My hands trembled as I put the phone down, trying to process what I had just read. Every memory we had shared, every moment of joy, now felt tainted and false. The woman I loved, the woman I had devoted my life to, had shattered my trust. Gritting my teeth, I tried to contain the rage boiling inside me. I wanted to storm into the living room, confront her, and demand answers, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed by the sheer magnitude of her deceit. Images of them together flashed through my mind, each one more painful than the last. I felt like I was suffocating, drowning in a sea of betrayal. For a moment, I considered the possibility that there was some misunderstanding. Maybe it was a cruel joke, or perhaps I had misinterpreted the message. But deep down, I knew the truth. The pieces of the puzzle fell into place, and I saw the signs I had missed before. The late nights at work, the unexplained absences, the distant look in her eyes. I felt a surge of bitterness. How long had this been going on? How many times had she lied to me, looked me in the eye, and pretended everything was fine? The love I felt for her was now mingled with a profound sense of disgust and disappointment. I heard her laugh from the living room, a sound that now felt like a mockery. My fists clenched, and I fought the urge to lash out, to break something, to release the anger consuming me. But I knew that wouldn't solve anything. It would only make me feel more powerless and defeated. I forced myself to take deep breaths, to calm down. I needed to think, to figure out what to do next. The trust I had placed in Jessica was irrevocably broken, and there was no going back. Our relationship, our marriage, was a lie. The future I had envisioned was now nothing but a shattered dream. Standing up, I wiped my tears and tried to steady my shaking hands. I needed time to process this, to decide how to confront her. But one thing was certain. The Jessica I thought I knew was gone, replaced by a stranger who had torn my heart to pieces. And I was left to pick up the fragments of my broken life. I couldn't sleep that night. The weight of Jessica's betrayal pressed down on me like a suffocating blanket. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the message from Mike over and over in my mind. When the sun finally rose, I knew I couldn't put it off any longer. I had to confront her. Jessica was in the kitchen, making breakfast, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. I took a deep breath and walked in, trying to steady my trembling hands. "Jessica," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "we need to talk." She turned to me, her face lighting up with a smile that now felt so hollow. "Good morning, what's up?" I could feel my anger rising, but I tried to keep my voice calm. "I found your phone last night. I saw the messages from Mike." Her smile faltered, and for a moment she looked genuinely confused. "Messages? What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Jessica. I read them. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was amazing." "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Her face went pale and she looked down at the floor. I can explain." "Explain?" My voice cracked with emotion. "Explain how you've been cheating on me, how you've been lying to my face every day." Tears welled up in her eyes and she took a step towards me. "Please, just listen. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't mean for it to happen." I backed away, unable to bear the sight of her. "So it just happened? You just accidentally fell into an affair?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No, it's not like that. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Mike and I got close at work. It was a mistake. I'm so sorry." "Sorry?" I laughed bitterly. "You're sorry now that you got caught. How long has this been going on, Jessica? How long have you been lying to me?" She looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "A few months." "A few months?" I felt a fresh wave of anger and hurt. "All those nights you said you were working late, you were with him, weren't you?" She nodded, her sobs growing louder. "I know I hurt you. I know I broke your trust, but I still love you. I want to fix this." I stared at her, disbelief and pain swirling in my chest. "Fix this? How do you fix something like this, Jessica? You destroyed everything we had." She reached out, trying to touch my arm, but I pulled away. "Please, give me a chance to make it right. I don't want to lose you." I took a step back, needing distance from her. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Right now I just need to be alone. I need to think." She nodded, tears falling freely. "I understand, but please don't give up on us." I turned and walked out of the kitchen, the weight of her betrayal crushing me. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I had loved so deeply, was gone. And in her place was a stranger who had torn my heart apart. I sat alone in the quiet of my study, the walls closing in around me. The confrontation with Jessica had left me emotionally drained, a hollow shell of the person I once was. I stared out the window, watching the world go by, but feeling completely disconnected from it. My mind was a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts and emotions, each one pulling me in a different direction. How could she do this to me? The question echoed in my head like a broken record. Every time I thought I had a grasp on it, the question slipped away, leaving me more confused and hurt than before. I replayed our years together, searching for signs, for moments that might have hinted at her infidelity, but nothing stood out. I felt like a fool, duped by the person I trusted most. I wanted to scream, to punch something, to release the anger boiling inside me. But I also wanted to curl up and cry, to let the sadness wash over me until there was nothing left. The dichotomy of my emotions was tearing me apart. Part of me wanted to confront Jessica again, to demand answers, to make her feel the pain she had caused me. Another part of me wanted to walk away, to leave everything behind and start fresh. I thought about our wedding day, the vows we had made, the promises we had sworn to keep. In sickness and in health, in good times and in bad, till death do us part. Those words now felt like a cruel joke. How could she stand there looking into my eyes and promise to be faithful, only to betray me so profoundly. My thoughts turned to the future. What was I supposed to do now? Divorce seemed like the obvious choice, but the idea of tearing our lives apart was overwhelming. We had built a life together and shared dreams and plans. It wasn't just about us, it was about the life we had created. Walking away felt like giving up, but staying felt like self-betrayal. I knew I needed to talk to someone, to seek advice and support. But the idea of telling friends and family about Jessica's infidelity filled me with shame and embarrassment. How could I face them, knowing they would see me as a victim, as someone who had been deceived and humiliated? I also thought about Mike, the man who had taken what was mine, who had shared moments with Jessica that should have been ours. The anger surged again, a blinding rage that made me want to confront him, to make him pay for his part in this betrayal. But I knew that wouldn't bring me peace. It would only fuel the cycle of anger and pain. As the hours passed, I tried to find some clarity, some path forward. I needed to decide whether to fight for our marriage or let it go. Both options seemed equally painful, equally daunting. I closed my eyes, taking deep breaths, trying to calm the storm inside me. I needed time to think, to process, to heal. I thought about the person I wanted to be and the life I wanted to lead. Trust was shattered, but perhaps it could be rebuilt. Or maybe it was time to move on, to find a new path, free from the shadows of betrayal. The only thing I knew for certain was that I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. I had to make a choice, one that would define the rest of my life. As the sun set outside, casting long shadows across the room, I resolved to take it one day at a time, to seek the support I needed, to allow myself to feel the pain, and to eventually find a way forward. Whether that path led me back to Jessica or away from her, only time would tell. But for now, I would focus on healing, on finding strength within myself, and on reclaiming my life from the wreckage of her betrayal. The days following the confrontation with Jessica were a blur of pain and confusion. I found myself sinking deeper into a dark place, unable to find my footing. I knew I couldn't navigate this turmoil alone. I needed support, a lifeline to pull me from the depths of my despair. It was time to reach out to friends and family. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts, my finger hovering over Michael's name. He had been my best friend since college, someone I could always count on. Taking a deep breath, I dialed his number. "Hey man, what's up?" Michael's cheerful voice was a stark contrast to the heaviness in my heart. "Hey Mike, can we talk? It's about Jessica," I managed to say, my voice cracking. "Of course, bud, what's going on?" he asked, concern replacing his earlier cheerfulness. I hesitated for a moment, then the words poured out. I told him everything, the messages, the confrontation, the betrayal. By the time I finished, I was choking back tears. "Jesus, man," Michael said, his voice filled with sympathy. "I'm so sorry. I can't believe she did that to you. Do you want me to come over?" "Yes, please," I whispered. I could use a friend right now. Within an hour, Michael was at my door, a bottle of whiskey in hand. We sat in the living room, and he listened patiently as I vented my anger, confusion, and pain. He didn't offer platitudes or try to fix things. He just let me talk, and for that, I was grateful. "You're going to get through this," Michael said firmly. "I know it feels impossible right now, but you're stronger than you think, and you're not alone. We're all here for you." His words were a balm to my wounded heart. For the first time in days, I felt a glimmer of hope. I wasn't alone. I had friends who cared about me and who would help me through this dark time. Next, I called my sister Rachel. She had always been my rock, someone I could turn to in times of trouble. As I recounted the events, her anger on my behalf was palpable. "How could she do this to you?" Rachel fumed. "You don't deserve this. You deserve so much better." "I don't know what to do, Rachel," I admitted, my voice shaking. "I feel so lost." "You need to take care of yourself," she said gently. "Lean on your friends and family. Let us help you. You don't have to go through this alone." Over the next few days, I continued to reach out to those closest to me. My parents were shocked and heartbroken, but they offered unwavering support. My dad's firm handshake and my mom's warm hug were exactly what I needed. They reassured me that no matter what happened, I was loved and valued. My friends rallied around me, each offering their form of comfort. Some took me out for drinks, others invited me over for dinner. They kept me busy and distracted, reminding me of the good in the world and the strength of true friendship. With each conversation and each act of kindness, I felt a little bit stronger. The pain was still there, a constant ache in my chest, but it was no longer unbearable. I was starting to see a way forward, a path out of the darkness. One evening, as I sat with Michael and Rachel, I realized just how fortunate I was to have such incredible people in my life. They had lifted me when I was at my lowest and given me the strength to face each new day. "I don't know what I'd do without you guys," I said, my voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you for being here for me." "That's what friends and family are for," Rachel replied, squeezing my hand. "We'll get through this together." In the warmth of their presence, I found the solace I had been seeking. I knew the road ahead would be challenging, but I also knew I didn't have to walk alone. With my friends and family by my side, I could face whatever came next. The support from my friends and family had given me the strength to face each day, but the pain and anger over Jessica's betrayal still simmered beneath the surface. As the initial shock wore off, my thoughts turned darker. I couldn't just let her get away with what she'd done. She needed to face the consequences of her actions. I decided that I would exact my revenge, not out of spite, but to reclaim some semblance of control over my shattered life. Late one night, as I lay in bed, a plan began to form in my mind. I knew that if I was going to do this, I needed solid evidence of her infidelity, something undeniable that would expose her lies and deceit. I would gather every piece of proof I could find and use it to confront her in a way that would leave no room for denial. The next morning, I began my mission. I started with her phone, which first revealed her betrayal. When she wasn't looking, I took screenshots of her messages with Mike. There were countless texts, each one more damning than the last. I saved them all to a secure folder on my laptop, a growing collection of her lies. Next, I turned to her email. Jessica had always been careless with her passwords, and I knew most of them by heart. It didn't take long to gain access to her account. There I found more evidence: love letters, plans for secret meetings, even photos. Each discovery fueled my determination. I copied everything, meticulously organizing it into a comprehensive file. But I needed more than just digital evidence. I needed something concrete that would be impossible for her to dismiss as a misunderstanding. So, I decided to follow her. I began tracking her movements, noting when she left for her so-called work meetings and where she went. It was exhausting and disheartening work, but I was relentless. One evening, I followed her to a hotel on the other side of town. I parked my car and watched as she met Mike in the lobby. They embraced, their affection for each other clear as day. My heart pounded with a mix of rage and resolve. I took pictures, documenting every moment. This was the final piece of the puzzle, the irrefutable proof I needed. Returning home, I reviewed my collection of evidence. It was overwhelming. Jessica had betrayed me in ways I hadn't even imagined. But instead of breaking down, I felt a cold, steely resolve. She would pay for this, and I would make sure of it. With the evidence gathered, I began to plan my next move. I would confront her in a way that left no room for excuses or lies. I envisioned the moment, Jessica sitting across from me, her face pale as I laid out every piece of evidence, each one a nail in the coffin of our relationship. She would see the depth of her betrayal, and she would feel the full weight of what she had done. I reached out to a lawyer, seeking advice on the legal aspects of my plan. I wanted to ensure that when I confronted Jessica, I was prepared for every possible outcome. The lawyer helped me understand my rights and the steps I needed to take to protect myself financially and legally. Days turned into weeks as I finalized my preparations. Each day brought me closer to the moment of reckoning. My friends and family, unaware of the full extent of my plan, continued to offer their support, urging me to take care of myself. I appreciated their concern, but I knew that this was something I had to do. Finally, the day arrived. I had everything ready: the screenshots, the emails, the photographs. It was time to confront Jessica and deliver the consequences of her actions. As I sat in my study, reviewing the evidence one last time, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. This was the moment I had been preparing for. I took a deep breath and called Jessica into the room. "Jessica," I said, my voice steady, "we need to talk." She looked at me, confusion and worry flickering in her eyes. "What is it?" I motioned for her to sit down. I've discovered something and you need to see it." As I began to lay out the evidence before her, piece by piece, I watched her expression change from confusion to shock, then to despair. The truth was undeniable, and there was no escape. This was the moment I had been waiting for, and it was finally here. The satisfaction of gathering irrefutable evidence against Jessica was short-lived. As I delved deeper into the tangled web of deceit, an unexpected twist emerged, one that turned my entire plan on its head. It was almost too much to believe, but there it was, staring me in the face. Mike was cheating on Jessica with her best friend, Laura. I stumbled upon this discovery while sifting through more of Jessica's messages. She had been venting to Laura about her affair with Mike, seeking advice and consolation. The irony was almost laughable. In one particularly damning conversation, Laura consoled Jessica while subtly arranging her next rendezvous with Mike. I sat back, stunned by the sheer audacity of it all. The betrayal ran deeper than I could have ever imagined. Jessica, who had shattered my heart, was now herself a victim of betrayal by someone she considered a close friend. A dark sense of poetic justice began to take shape in my mind. This new piece of information was too powerful to ignore. I decided to use it to my advantage, to turn the tables in a way that would leave a lasting impact. I took a deep breath and started to develop a new plan. This wasn't just about confronting Jessica anymore. It was about exposing the entire sordid affair, pulling the rug out from under everyone involved. I knew that I had to proceed carefully, ensuring that every step was meticulously planned. The first thing I did was gather evidence of Mike and Laura's affair. Using the same methods I had employed to uncover Jessica's infidelity, I began tracking Laura's movements and interactions with Mike. It didn't take long to confirm my suspicions. Late-night meetings, secretive texts, and covert rendezvous painted a clear picture of their duplicity. Once I had enough evidence, I formulated a plan to reveal everything in one devastating blow. The idea was to orchestrate a confrontation that would leave no room for denial or escape. I envisioned a scenario where Jessica, Mike, and Laura would all be present, surrounded by friends and family. The exposure would be public, humiliating, and final. I decided that the best opportunity would be at an upcoming social gathering, a mutual friend's birthday party. It was the perfect setting, a place where all the key players would be present, and the impact of the revelation would be amplified by the presence of our friends. As the day of the party approached, I refined my plan, ensuring every detail was in place. I created a presentation of sorts, compiling the evidence into a format that would be impossible to refute. Text messages, photographs, emails, everything was organized and ready for the grand reveal. On the night of the party, I arrived early, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and nerves. I mingled with the guests, pretending everything was normal while keeping a close eye on Jessica, Mike, and Laura. They were all there, blissfully unaware of the storm about to break. As the evening progressed, I waited for the right moment. When the party was in full swing and everyone was gathered in the main room, I made my move. I tapped my glass, calling for attention, and the room fell silent. "I have something important to share," I began, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. "It's come to my attention that there have been some betrayals among us, betrayals that need to be brought to light." I saw Jessica's face pale, confusion and dread mingling in her eyes. Mike shifted uncomfortably, and Laura tried to maintain her composure, but I could see the flicker of panic. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the TV screen in the room. "What you're about to see may be shocking, but it's the truth, and it's time for the truth to come out." One by one, I displayed the messages and photos, narrating the story as it unfolded. The room was deathly silent, the air thick with tension. Jessica's eyes filled with tears as she realized the extent of Mike and Laura's betrayal. Mike looked like he wanted to disappear, and Laura's face was a mask of shock and horror. "This," I said, gesturing to the screen, "is what has been happening behind closed doors. Jessica, you betrayed me, but you were also betrayed by those you trusted most. This is the truth, laid bare for everyone to see." As the weight of the revelation settled over the room, I felt a strange sense of release. The truth was out, and the web of lies had been torn apart. Jessica, Mike, and Laura stood exposed, their deceit laid bare for all to see. In the aftermath, as people began to react, some with shock, others with anger or sympathy, I slipped out of the room, leaving the chaos behind. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of closure. The truth had been revealed, and the power of that revelation was my first step toward reclaiming my life. The days leading up to the confrontation were a whirlwind of emotions. As I prepared myself mentally for what lay ahead, I knew that emotional readiness was just as crucial as gathering evidence. I couldn't afford to let anger or bitterness cloud my judgment. This had to be executed with precision, each step calculated to maximize the impact. I spent hours rehearsing in my mind how I would handle the confrontation. Visualizing the moment helped me anticipate Jessica's reactions and brace myself for the fallout. I reminded myself that this wasn't just about revenge, it was about setting the record straight and reclaiming my dignity. Once I felt sufficiently composed, I took the first step towards exposing the truth. I began subtly spreading rumors among our mutual friends, hinting at the betrayal without revealing all the details. It was a delicate balance, to sow enough doubt and curiosity without causing undue chaos before the planned revelation. I chose my words carefully, planting seeds of doubt in conversations and gatherings. I could see the whispers and exchanged glances among our friends, the beginning of a ripple effect that would eventually lead to the exposure of Jessica's betrayal. Each rumor I planted was like a piece of a puzzle, slowly coming together to form the bigger picture. It was both empowering and nerve-wracking to watch as the truth began to unravel, inch by inch, in the social circles we once shared. As I continued with my preparations, I knew that soon there would be no turning back. The moment of truth was approaching, and I was determined to see it through. This was my chance to confront the lies and deception head-on, and I was ready to face whatever consequences it might bring. The psychological preparation wasn't just about steeling myself for the confrontation. It was about reclaiming my narrative, asserting my truth in the face of betrayal. With each passing day, I grew more resolute in my decision to expose Jessica's infidelity and reclaim my sense of justice. The day it arrived, the culmination of weeks of planning and emotional turmoil. I knew there was no turning back now. This was my moment to confront Jessica and bring everything into the open. I waited until we were alone in our living room, the air thick with tension. Jessica could sense something was amiss, her eyes flickering with concern as I stood before her, holding the evidence that would shatter her world. "Jessica," I began, my voice steady but filled with the weight of betrayal. "I know about Mike and Laura." Her face paled, and she stumbled back, disbelief written across her features. "What are you talking about?" I didn't hesitate. I laid out the evidence before her, every text message, every photograph, every piece of proof that exposed her affair with Mike and his betrayal of Laura. There was nowhere for her to hide, no excuse that could erase the truth staring her in the face. Tears welled up in her eyes as she realized the magnitude of her deception. I'm sorry," she stammered, but her words fell flat against the avalanche of evidence. "You're sorry?" I echoed, my voice laced with bitterness. "You've been lying to me for months, betraying our trust, and all this time, you were being betrayed yourself." I didn't give her a chance to respond. Turning on my heel, I left her standing there, the weight of her guilt heavy in the room. It was time to take the next step, to reveal the truth to our friends and ensure that everyone knew the extent of Jessica's and Mike's betrayal. That evening at a mutual friend's birthday party, I gathered our closest friends and began to speak. The room fell silent as I recounted the whole sordid affair, the lies, the deceit, the heartbreaking betrayal. I held nothing back, displaying the evidence for all to see, ensuring that there was no doubt about what had transpired. Jessica stood in the corner, tears streaming down her face, as the truth unfolded before our friends. Mike and Laura, caught in their web of lies, could only hang their heads in shame as their infidelity was laid bare. The atmosphere in the room was charged with disbelief and outrage. Some friends gasped, others whispered amongst themselves, but there was no denying the truth. Jessica's world crumbled around her, exposed for all to witness. As I finished speaking, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, sadness, and a sense of closure. The truth had been revealed, and justice, in its way, had been served. I turned away from the shocked faces of our friends, knowing that this chapter of my life was finally coming to an end. With the truth exposed and our marriage irreparably shattered, the next inevitable step was to begin the process of dividing our assets and preparing for divorce. It was a daunting task, one that required navigating legal complexities and emotional turmoil simultaneously. We had accumulated shared possessions over the years, our home, vehicles, investments, all of which now had to be divided fairly or as fairly as possible under the circumstances. I consulted with a divorce attorney, seeking guidance on how to proceed. Together, we compiled a list of all our assets and began the delicate negotiation process. Each item held memories, some joyful, now tainted by betrayal, while others were reminders of happier times before everything unraveled. As we sat across from each other at the attorney's office discussing terms and agreements, the reality of our separation sank in. Jessica and I exchanged terse words, bitterness seeping into every conversation. Yet amidst the acrimony, there were moments of resignation, a silent acknowledgement that this was the only way forward. We agreed on the division of property, each signing documents that would legally sever our ties. It was a solemn moment, marking the end of a chapter in our lives that had once been filled with love and promise. I began packing my belongings, preparing to move out of our shared home. Each item I packed was a reminder of what we had lost, a future together, now shattered by betrayal and deceit. The days that followed were a blur of paperwork and emotional upheaval. Friends and family offered support, but the pain of separation lingered, a constant ache in my heart. As I handed over the keys to our home and walked away, I knew that this was the finality I needed to move forward. The division of assets was not just about material possessions. It was about reclaiming my independence, my dignity, and my sense of self-worth. With the legalities finalized, I embarked on a new chapter of my life, one defined by resilience, healing, and the courage to rebuild after betrayal. As the dust settled from our tumultuous separation and the truth of Jessica's betrayal became public knowledge, she began to face the consequences of her actions. For Jessica, the aftermath was a harsh awakening to the ripple effects of infidelity. Friends who once stood by her side now kept their distance, their trust shattered along with mine. Some offered sympathy, but many couldn't reconcile her actions with the person they thought they knew. Professionally, Jessica's reputation also suffered. Word of the scandal spread beyond our social circle, casting a shadow over her career aspirations. Colleagues whispered behind closed doors, clients questioned her integrity, and opportunities that once seemed within reach now slipped through her fingers. Emotionally, Jessica struggled to come to terms with the fallout. Regret weighed heavily on her, compounded by the loneliness that followed losing not just a marriage, but also the support and companionship we once shared. The reality of being ostracized by those she cared about took a toll, leaving her isolated and adrift in a sea of remorse. Yet amidst the turmoil, there were moments of reflection. Jessica began to confront the reasons behind her betrayal, deep-seated insecurities, unmet needs, and the consequences of prioritizing short-term desires over long-term commitments. Facing justice wasn't just about external repercussions. It was a journey of self-discovery and accountability. Jessica embarked on therapy, seeking to understand the root causes of her actions and to heal from the emotional wounds she had inflicted upon herself and others. Slowly, she began to rebuild her life, one small step at a time. Apologies were offered, albeit with mixed reactions from those she had hurt. Forgiveness she knew would not come easily, if at all. In facing the consequences of her betrayal, Jessica learned hard lessons about trust, integrity, and the true cost of infidelity. It was a journey marked by pain and regret, but also by a newfound determination to live authentically and with honesty, no matter the consequences. As for me, I found solace in knowing that justice, in its way, had been served. The wounds were still fresh, but with each passing day, I too began to heal, reclaiming my life and my sense of self-worth beyond the wreckage of our shattered marriage. As I stand on the precipice of a new chapter in my life, the echoes of betrayal and heartache slowly fade into the background. The journey through pain and deception has been arduous, but I have emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. The decision to confront Jessica's infidelity was a pivotal moment, marking the beginning of my journey toward healing and self-discovery. It required courage to face the truth head-on, to peel back the layers of deceit that had clouded our relationship for far too long. In the aftermath of our separation, I found myself navigating a landscape fraught with emotional landmines. There were moments of despair and doubt, moments when the weight of betrayal threatened to overwhelm me. But with each passing day, I found solace in the support of friends and loved ones who stood by my side, offering unwavering encouragement and compassion. Forgiveness did not come easily. It was a gradual process, marked by moments of introspection and acceptance. I realized that holding on to anger and resentment only weighed me down, preventing me from fully embracing the possibilities that lay ahead. As I began to rebuild my life, I embraced the freedom that came with letting go of bitterness, letting go of the past, and letting go of the expectations that no longer served me. I rediscovered the joy of pursuing my passion, of nurturing relationships that uplifted and inspired me. With each sunrise, I greeted a new day with renewed optimism and gratitude. I immersed myself in activities that brought me fulfillment, whether it was exploring new hobbies, volunteering in my community, or simply taking time to appreciate the beauty of the world around me. The scars of betrayal served as a reminder of my resilience, a testament to my ability to overcome adversity and emerge stronger on the other side. I found strength in vulnerability, courage in confronting my deepest fears, and peace in embracing the uncertainty of the future. Today, as I reflect on the journey that brought me here, I am filled with a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the lessons learned, for the friendships forged in adversity, and for the opportunity to rewrite my story with authenticity and purpose. I carry with me the wisdom gained from navigating the stormy seas of betrayal, a wisdom that guides me as I chart a course toward a future filled with possibility and promise. I am no longer defined by the pain of the past, but by the resilience and determination that have shaped my journey. With a heart full of hope and a spirit renewed, I embrace the dawn of this new chapter, ready to embrace life's challenges with grace, gratitude, and unwavering faith in the journey ahead.